Guten Tag and bienvenidos, listeners, and welcome to Uber Cinco, the podcast game show where we deep dive top fives. I'm Brian Ernst, your strikingly handsome host for today's festivities, and in the den today are still just Mitch Brinkman and Nathan Hennenfent.
We're not going anywhere,
Today,
baby.
Today, these snake oil salesmen will attempt to reveal and defend their top 5 actors who have won a Razzie. For those of you unfamiliar with the officially named Golden Raspberry Awards, the Razzie awards films and performances with the coveted Worst of title, including Rudy Giuliani for the Worst Supporting Actor Award for his role in Borat's subsequent movie film, with Worst Picture going to Absolute Proof, the documentary where MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell uncovers absolutely nothing. Our first contestant is a performer who has won a Razzie for the worst julienne slices at craft services. That's what you get for only using a plastic knife. Welcome, Nathan Hennenfent. How are you?
Thank you. Good to be here. Looking forward to talking about bad movies.
Good.
Amazing.
Good. And his challenger, another fellow Razzie winner, is Mitch Brinkman, who has, of course, won Most Annoying Live Performance by playing a dog owner for the past year. Mitch, welcome. How are you?
You can call me Telescope Brinkman because I'm just here for the stars. Oh, yeah. I love celebs. I love Hollywood, and I'm ready to win today. So let's do it, baby.
God, I hope you don't. If you want to get blown to the moon, head on over to bizbear.biz to submit your suggestions and questions for upcoming shows. And if you're new to the den, welcome, and let us wake you up with a quick rundown of the rules.
Each player in the den has spent time with today's topic arranging their top 5 answers in order of importance. Those answers have been submitted to the host who will moderate the game, awarding points to the player with the most poignant answer.
Starting with their number 5 choice, we will move up the ranks until we reach each of their top answers. But if both contestants happen to have the same answer on their list, well, we have an Uber stare-down.
You will hear the official Uber Cinco siren, and both players must reveal their answer and what number they ranked their submission. An Uber stare-down is all or nothing, with one player earning 3 points. After all answers have been read, the host will reveal the final score. And as a reminder, don't forget to stick with us until the end of the show, where I, Brian Ernst, will give you my Fast 5 send-off, where I'll rattle off the definitive list of the top 5 intellectual properties that need to license themselves to casino games. All right.
Very
and
specific.
Finally, as host, I am entitled to institute a house rule for today's game. I have another post-it of wonder. I didn't write it down, but pretend there's a post-it of wonder. Plus 2 points to whomever guesses my favorite Razzie Worst Picture winner that I still occasionally hate watch. If you guys were going through the list of Worst Picture winners, I bet you guys could figure it out. Mitch, you won the pre-show Razzie for producing Brinkerdu's All-Natural Dog Treats, an American Conspiracy Against Jesus starring Kirk Cameron, so you must go first.
Of course. I just love stars. I love their magnetism. I love their teeth. I love their smiles and their bright, bright eyes. And that's why I'm going number 1. She is maybe not the most famous sex symbol of any actress who's won a Razzie, but she was my generation's sex symbol. And that's why my number 5 is Denise Richards for her turn in The World Is Not Enough as Dr. Christmas Jones. Now, this movie ends.
I love the name. I've always loved that
Christmas
character
Jones,
name.
her radar signature and Pierce Brosnan's go from 2 to 1 at the end, and they're like, "Oh, Bond," or whatever it is, and then they're having sex at the end. The famous lines: "Christmas comes early," or comes.
I thought Christmas only came once a year.
Yes, that's what. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Because Bond gave her multiple orgasms.
Exactly.
That's what it was in reference.
Got it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just incredible. That's just disgusting and wonderful. But the reason I love Denise Richards is that she either has a giant smile on her face, like a wry smile, she's like smiling through her teeth as she's acting, or it's like a Mean Girls kind of like sexy snarl. There's nothing in between. It's either a smile or a snarl. And it worked for her in Drop Dead Gorgeous. Obviously Bond. And then what was the one that's set in Manhattan where all the rich kids they go to prep school?
Was it?
And then they kiss in the pool or whatever, or in the park.
Was that Wild Things?
Wild Things.
Like
yes. There we
go.
go.
Bill Murray's in there. Yeah, that was definitely a movie I watched when I was like 13 and didn't have internet
of
porn.
Course.
That was a substitute.
See, I have respect for the stars. I just enjoy the films. So Denise Richards, she's on one of the Housewives show, I think, but she just continues. She's a chameleon with a smile or a snarl, and she just continues to print cash and put it in her bank account. So I applaud Denise Richards. I had a poster of her when I was a young man in my locker at IHM St. Luke's School. I'm sorry, Sister Sarah, for desecrating your holy medal with that, but it got me through the day. Thank you very much.
That reminded me of the two expressions reminds me of my favorite quote about Clint Eastwood, which was from Sergio Leone, who directed him in the Dollars trilogy. That was, he had two modes of acting. That was hatless and with hat.
Yep. Sounds about right.
And to also, that was a dark period for the Bond franchise, of which I consider myself an expert. But like that name, Christmas Jones, like there's been a lot of ridiculous Bond girl names. I mean, Pussy Galore, Holly Goodhead, all kinds of over the top. But that Christmas Jones one isn't funny. Like it doesn't make any sense. Nobody's named Christmas. And it literally was, they just named her that for that one joke at the very end of the movie. Like that's the only reason that name was in there, was for one stupid joke.
So perhaps
think about
it's the
how
best
bad
name
you have to be.
that's ever been put to paper in a film. So
you're making Pussy Galore look good. That's how bad the name is. that can't be.
I mean, one of the names of a Bond movie is Octopussy, which nobody talks about enough because it's embarrassing to talk about a movie named Octopussy. And it's not a porn film.
I still haven't watched it because I don't know what it's about. I assume I know what it's about,
sure,
based on the title. There's 8 of them, but I can't.
It's one of the best Bond movies in terms of just sheer over the top ridiculousness.
What's your favorite thing about Octopussy, Nathan?
Bond,
the variety, the choices.
There's a fake horse that turns into an airplane.
What?
There is.
This is like a Trojan horse thing. It's enormous, or is it a tiny plane?
Kind of, yeah. And Bond dresses up as a clown at a certain point. A hot air balloon gets involved. It's wonderful.
This is Octopussy. I need to see this. It sounds.
Yeah, this is 1983.
Sounds like a real big romp.
It's
coming next week. I think we're gonna do a Mystery Science Theater 3000 version of Uber Cinco, where we sit there and we watch Octopussy and see what happens. All right, you have Denise Richards, Mitch for 5. Nathan, we need to hear your number 5.
I went with Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis won in 1998 for Armageddon. Also Mercury Rising and The Siege. This is something I didn't know about the Razzies before today. Was a lot of times they'll award people for multiple movies in one year. So Bruce Willis, I guess, had a real bad 1998. But Bruce Willis is, he's a legend. There are actors and then there's movie stars. Bruce Willis is a bona fide movie star. Yeah. People just love to watch him. He's laid back. He's cool. He's effortlessly funny and tough all at the same time. I mean, the Die Hard movies speak for themselves. And then he had that great turn as the sensitive guy in The Sixth Sense who, well, I'm not going to spoil it for those of you who haven't seen it, but there's quite a twist. Loved him in Moonrise Kingdom. Obviously, he's able to do a little self-parody there with totally diving into the Wes Anderson universe. Iconic role in Pulp Fiction. But the main reason I picked Bruce Willis for this list is because I remember at one point Mitch telling me that his mom has a huge thing for Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis is the ultimate Eileen Brinkman fantasy celebrity crush. So Bruce Willis has to be on the list. I think
she can't wait till my dad loses his hair, which he hasn't lost any yet. Good for him. He's 60, still with full head of hair. So he can shave his head bald and she can imagine it. He's Bruce Willis. I think that's a thing. So,
what does your mom have to do for him to imagine Sandra Bullock? Right. That's his crush. That's why she's got
a wig collection. So,
okay. I knew they were selling the Miss Congeniality wig on eBay. I'm glad she picked it up. So she
has short Short
Man,
red
what a
hair,
fun-
by the way, for those of you.
What a fun retirement they're going to have. Just a moonlighting and speed
Do you think
cosplay.
Bruce Willis and Sandra Bullock ever like ran into each other at the Viper Room or like Cadillac Ranch and just decided to have like a mid-afternoon romp back at his low Hollywood Hills, I'll say it, jam pad. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
We'll give him a call. I mean, we got his number here.
If it didn't happen, I want to believe it happened.
Yes, that's very true. And if she can't have Bruce Willis and she has to go like a TV star, a little lower, David Duchovny will also do very well for my mother. So, yeah.
Well, he's got a lot of practice, so that's all right. I do like Mulder. That's a good choice. All right.
I do like Mulder. That's a good bang fantasy choice. Very nice. Very good.
Yeah, I approve of your mother's fantasies.
You just got to go through my laughing here. I'm going to keep laughing. So you got to.
Isn't there a dog you need to pet nearby or something? I don't know. All right.
I haven't mentioned him
for your number 5
once yet this week. So thank you very much.
I know. I'm just getting them out early. For your number 5s, Mitch, I'm going to give you 3 points for Christmas Jones just because of how ridiculous it is. And I kind of liked Armageddon, so you're getting 2. It's still bad, but I like to hate watch it. It's not the one that's at the number 1 on my list, but I will definitely hate watch some Armageddon. Number 4s.
My number
Let's
4,
do it,
I
Mitch.
forgot to tease this earlier, but at the end of my gabbing here, I'm gonna unveil a huge breaking story here about my number 4. I don't think anyone else has figured this out, but I'm teasing it right now. I'm telling you, I've got a huge scoop. So don't turn it off yet. Okay, it's coming. It's going to be enormous. So my number 4 is the all-American Italian stallion. We've already mentioned pornography. Started there, and he rose to the top, and now he sits on a bed of whipped cream and cash, and that is Sylvester Stallone. He's been awarded 10 Razzies. Dude, he collects them. Clearly, I think kind of his peak was the original Rocky. It was like his first big movie. Of course, he wrote. Did he direct it too? He not directed. Okay,
no,
but he
did
did write it. It was his baby.
Alvidson. I think it's John Alvidson or whatever. Oak Park native, by the way.
Yes. That's great here. But Sylvester Stallone, he's just so bright. He's such a big star, and I can't not put on my cat eye heart glasses because he's got such a shine to him. And so I think he fell trap too is a classic 80s. I mean, him and Schwarzenegger, it was like McGuire versus Sosa. It was like who could get bigger, who could get more guns, on their arms, who could stay in the gym longer. And I think he fell into a trap of just mass and volume, which, he brought to the action movies. And I think it hurt his career. And he won a bunch of Razzies for him. So
do you have all those 10 films in front of you?
I don't have the entire list right now. I didn't write all of them down because
I would guess, it's probably First Blood Part 2, probably Rocky 5.
Did you ever see Rhinestone?
Yep. Yes. It's with Dolly Parton, isn't
so
it?
Rambo 3 we have here. Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
Good.
Yep.
Over the top?
I have seen Stop or My Mom Will Shoot back in the day. That was in the 90s when they thought, like, let's get guys who can't speak very well, like kind of, garbled English and make them comedy stars at trying to, like comedy's a very like, it's a language-based medium, right? Like action movies, you can just flex your muscles, shoot your gun and smash a wall. Like, you got to have some verbal elasticity for a good comedy. So, what else here? He's won a bunch. I mean, he's filling up his mantle with him.
Probably the Expendable movies, I would assume.
But okay,
that's a lot.
So the big thing I want to break here. This is something I uncovered myself, my own research. It's no one else. People call him Sly Stallone, right?
Yeah.
His name is Sylvester. S-Y-L.
Correct.
Why isn't he Syl Stallone? Boom! Boom! Boom!
Wow. Well, you heard it here first on Uber Cinco, ladies and gentlemen.
I can tell you guys have no idea
what a scoop.
What to say. It looks like you want to strangle me, but I think this is a big scoop. I think it's a big scoop.
Oh God! I can't get to Nathan faster. Like, what is your number 4, sir?
Oh my God! Okay.
My number 4 is Melissa McCarthy, who. Oh no!
Hey-oh! Our first stare down of the
dance
day.
Dance for the cameras, monkeys! Come on, dance!
I'm
Nathan,
dancing.
you gotta dance.
All right.
It's not real.
Melissa McCarthy. Nathan, for which Razzie have you chosen her?
Well, she was in The Happy Time Murders and Life of the Party in 2018. She was one of the double winners, which that's why I put her on the list. Also, I have only one woman on my list of 5. I looked through these and they have been pretty. Some of the male choices have been sort of ironic, I thought, but they have just chosen the worst women, like Paris Hilton, like a lot of people who aren't even considered actors. So that's why there's only one woman on my list. But Melissa McCarthy. So I knew of Melissa McCarthy from Gilmore Girls, obviously.
Yes.
As Suki, the chef. She was so lovable on that. And then she was Molly on Mike and Molly, which was a show that I have never seen. And but
that's fine.
Mostly I chose her because she is a Saturday Night Live legend. She is hilarious on Saturday Night Live every time she's on there. The character that I love is Sheila Kelly, the overly abusive basketball coach. Gets me every time. And then she was amazing as Sean Spicer, the former White House press secretary. She's my favorite SNL host of probably the last 10 years. That's why she's on my list. I leave it to you, Mitch. Take it from here.
So she's obviously like GOAT comedy performer, a legend at the Groundlings in LA. Her and her husband both are comedy veterans. And I put this on here because it's sort of like, I'm sure she's aware of this. There's no doubt, but why not have one more guy from a podcast share his opinion on it? And that is, this is like it's like a warning. Like, I know you have to strike when the iron's hot. Maybe there's only like a 4 or 5 year window when you can get $20 million a picture, and you got to stack that cheddar. I get it. I get it.
For sure.
But you don't have to do every single fucking project that they throw your way. And I just feel like it's been like the past couple of years, the movies she chooses are just, there's no one else around her. It's like her kind of, I feel like, trying to elevate everyone else. I don't know if that's just like not paying enough for other talent, or she just wants to like remain the one shining star of the movie. But if that's the case, I get it, because stars got to shine. You got to roll. I understand that. But this movie, Life of the Party, she won for, I've hate watched it at least 3 times because it was on HBO, like a couple months ago, and it would just be on. And it was one of those things where you pop in at like minute 35 and stay to like minute 52, and you're like, I didn't hate that, but I do feel like I wasted my time a little bit. And then you come back in.
For those who haven't seen it, this is the one where she's the mother who goes back to college, correct?
And so she's like, oh, I'm a mom. I want to care about you. And then she's like, oh, but I want to party too. And then, oh, partying's fun. And then, oh, I found my own, I found my own life. And like, I'm separate from my husband now. But she's like, it's like she's always got to do, her McCarthy thing. And so I just hope that she doesn't continue to fall in this trap. And it feels like maybe that run of studios just giving her and her husband a bunch of money to go make a project is probably over, because they haven't made a good one in a couple of years. But I just hope, I just don't want to see her fall into like a Eddie Murphy or like Jim Carrey trap where they just do shit,
Yeah.
And then it takes like a weird Netflix series to bring them back out of it, 10 years later or something. So.
Well, Melissa McCarthy is a solid choice, but it seems like she's on both of your lists because of how much you like her and don't want her to be in these things.
I mean, I wish like her career trajectory had been slightly different. I wish that she actually had a stint like when she was young, because I mean it's a young person's game, but I wish she was a regular cast member on SNL at one point, because her talents are just so suited to it. it would have been amazing to watch her for a full season.
Yeah.
Like I think she would have been like considered one of the best ever cast members of the show had she done that. I mean, I think the only person who ever was like an established star and then actually went to the show was Billy Crystal on that weird season in the 80s. And like, it would be totally cool if she did that. But apparently SNL is like a nightmare of a show to actually work for because it's so stressful and the turnaround is so brutal. So, and she's obviously made bajillions of dollars, so there's no way she would do it. But she would have been just perfect as a cast member.
Yeah. True.
And that's just it for selling me on SNL and how great Melissa McCarthy is. Nathan, you're getting the 3 points for this stare down. So congratulations to you. It's a big old fat 0 for Mitch.
Blow
there.
yourself to the moon, you freaking crapper.
I'd also just like to casually mention the movie Wild Wild West right now. I don't know if that'll get me bonus points. Maybe.
That was almost on my posted of wonder as a fun hate watch, but it was not that one. All right, Mitch, I got to score your number 4. I was only going to give you 1 point for breaking the news, though, of Syl versus Sly. Yeah! You'll get the 2 points for that. Thank God you did your own research. We need to go back to Nathan now for your number 3.
That was Melissa was Mitch's number 3.
Yeah,
is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Number 3, I went with Dennis Hopper. He won for Waterworld in 1995 for, I believe this was the Supporting Actor Award. I have never seen Waterworld, but I went with Dennis Hopper just because I am a fan of the idea of Dennis Hopper. He's such a weirdo. He's a real, he lived a real artist life. He was friends with James Dean back in the day. They came up together. He was in the movie Giant with him, and he played a lot of real squirrely, weird characters in a lot of his younger roles. And he was in, in Giant, he's a bit like that. And then he played a real pathetic young man in a kind of not the most famous Western ever. It was The Sons of Katie Elder, which I'd recently rewatched and holds up pretty well. It's got, it has John Wayne, who I'm not a big fan of, but it has Dean Martin, who's playing Dean Martin in the movie. Yes, he always did. He's just, he thinks he's on stage in Vegas, but it's a Western. It's ludicrous, but fun to watch. But then Dennis Hopper became the archetypal hip. Like there was a Simpsons character that shows up from time to time that's like got the long hair. He's like, my favorite line ever is, "Hey man, hurry up! This electric van's only got 20 minutes of juice left." And it's a total parody of this hippie that Dennis Hopper embodied in the movie he directed, Easy Rider, which is, the
Bananas.
One of the defining movies of the 60s. And then also in Apocalypse Now, that just ridiculous, overblown, amazing masterpiece. And at the end, they get to Marlon Brando and everything, and it's supposed to be climactic. And then Dennis Hopper's running around with the camera doing his, "Oh my God, man, here I am." Like just, but then, he was the villain in Speed, just chewing on the scenery later in life. And then he's on a Gorillaz album in, it was 05 or 06, doing some spoken word stuff. I love Dennis Hopper. His career was just all over the place. He's a bizarre human being, but I thought he was a legend. So.
What about the scene chewing in Blue Velvet?
Oh
he
yeah,
just takes
Blue
that
Velvet as well.
Oxygen mask. And just so strange and weird.
I'm gonna jump in here for
he was in the Super Mario Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
He took all these. He was like, he had so much artistic integrity, but then he also just had no shame whatsoever.
Also,
none at all.
He was in an episode of me and Brian's favorite show, Entourage. He plays himself.
Yes.
Yes.
Betting on football.
On Brazil versus America during the winter or something. I was like, they need to talk to a real football fan.
Non-specific.
Yeah. But he's had a really great career. Was he in Hoosiers as well?
Yes, I think he might have actually won an Oscar for that. He plays the alcoholic assistant coach. Yeah. It's a really amazing performance. You have so much empathy for the character. He's the best part of that movie by far, I think.
No more on Dennis Hopper. All right.
Yeah, that's
Go 1, 2. All right. Easy rider for me. 3 points for Dennis Hopper. That's super easy. I forgot what studio Easy Rider was made at, and I forgot who was the head, but I remember watching a documentary once where his quote was, "I don't know what this movie's about. All I know is we're going to make a fuck ton of money." That was his quote in the documentary. So
wow,
he was right. All right. So that means we are on to number 2s already. Let's go back to Mitch. Number 2, sir.
Also, I just want to say, Brian, could you go for a cocktail right now? Is that your movie on the Posted a Wonder? Oh, damn it.
No,
Okay.
it's not.
Right,
it's in the 2000s, my film. There is your hint for the Posted of Wonder.
Which is actually a very watchable film. But now that you say 2000s, I know because of your religious beliefs, it's gotta be Battlefield Earth, right? That's you. All day. What?
No, I'm sorry. That is not.
You've become clear though, Brian. Okay. All right. I'm gonna stop guessing. Or is it Catwoman?
Hey,
I'm just going down the list here. I shouldn't do this.
Now you're just reading the list.
Stop.
Sorry,
We have a show to make, Mitch. Come on, stay on track.
My number 2.
Sell me on your 2.
He's such a good star, and he's one of the best stars because he's just like you and I. You know, he's not overly hot, but for the kind of guy he is, he's a pretty shiny star.
Why did you just tell me and Brian we're not overly hot? That was incredibly rude.
We're just regular guys, you know. And this star, he's kind of like a regular guy. He does comedy. He does perhaps the most funny character in the history of comedy. End of sentence. John.
Okay, fine.
I'm trying to build up the suspense. John C. Reilly. There he is. Dr. Steve Brule. Boogie Nights. Chicago. He can sing. He's a multi-talented star. He's got it all.
He was an editor at the Chicago Sun-Times and never been kissed with Drew Barrymore. Come on.
He had a huge comedy run with Will Ferrell in the mid to late 2000s. And he got awarded the Raspberry for his turn in Holmes and Watson, which I blame this on. Obviously, the Razzies just didn't like Holmes and Watson, which that was basically everyone. It was a crap movie. But John C. Reilly did everything he could. You know, it's like playing baseball with a wet piece of linguine. You know, you're not going to get a lot of hits, but you still got to go out there and you still got to go 0 for 5, you know? So
I still think Holmes and Watson, though, should have won an Oscar, though, for funniest trailer. It was a very good trailer, even though you knew the movie was going to be bad. Watching Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly shoot a gun at loose bees was extremely funny.
I actually had high hopes for this movie when I was like, John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell had such great chemistry together, and like the Sherlock Holmes, usually it's a can't miss, remake. But it's
good IP. It's good IP. Yeah, unfortunately, that was not. Again, they swung and unfortunately hit the wet loose linguine.
and John C. Reilly he's a national treasure. I love that. He does the Steve Brule character, but he always talks about it as if Steve Brule is a different person. That's not him. Some people ask him about it. He's like,
yes.
Oh, I heard, Steve Brule's doing great work. I heard he's doing another season coming up here. His fearlessness with that character as well. Going into public, often in an overly large pair of tighty whities, can be.
Do you have a favorite Steve Brule scene?
I think that when he meets, I can't remember where he meets like the group of bears, but he meets a bunch of big husky gay men, and they bring him to their clubhouse, and he's really excited because he's going to make a bunch of friends, and then the bears just pump him full of shots and booze. Then he wakes up and vomits on himself in the bathroom. And I know, we're like, let's not mention vomit for a third week in a row. But when Steve Brule gets up and then looks at the bartender and then kind of like slowly toddles. Is that a word? Toddle? Can you toddle? Toddle out? Yeah.
Yes, you can toddle.
I think we should clear it up for our listeners. So these are male bears at a gay bar, because I initially thought you were talking about a scene where he was in the woods because he led with bears. And I was like, oh, now I remember what you're talking about.
But also, if it was a scene with actual live bears, John C. Reilly would do it and he wouldn't be afraid and he would nail it. Like, that would also be great. So
I agree. I agree.
Then also just the gusto, the bravado, and the sort of cluelessness that he plays Chest Rockwell with in Boogie Nights is so. My
favorite character name of all time, because it's the character name of a character name, isn't it?
That's dead on.
Yes. I forgot what his name is in Boogie Nights, but the fact that it's Dirk Diggler and Chest Rockwell.
And like John C. Reilly looks like he does, so like for him to be like, the cock of the walk, he's like, no, I'm the one stallion that trots around in this stable. Like, what do you bench? Oh, 268. I bench 270. Actually, it's like always 2 pounds more. Like that kind of character. So
yeah. I actually recently rewatched Boogie Nights when we were cat sitting. And when the scene where Alfred Molina comes in, that little guy in the back just throwing firecrackers everywhere, every single firecracker popped just threw the cat in a tizzy. It was just like, what's going on? It was like having PTSD of the war. And it was like,
also such a great scene.
We're forgetting the one thing about John C. Reilly that we all have in common.
I'm getting there. He is DePaul University's greatest alum until we surpass him, of course, as one.
Wow. Brutal blow to Gillian Anderson there.
I was going to say,
ouch.
Scully, we've made it full circle now. We've done all the X-Files. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, Gillian.
Mitch doesn't give a
Anderson,
shit.
But
right.
You're a redhead, and people don't care as much about dirty gingers. So it just is what it is. So John C. Reilly, my second favorite star.
Solid choice. And if I have to pick a Steve Brule scene, I'm going with the one where he has to give a semen sample. This is one of my favorite ones because he doesn't understand what a sample is and what he needs to be giving to the doctor. And it takes 3 tries. So that is top of my list. Now we move on over to Nathan. Who's at your number 2?
Woody Harrelson.
Woody.
And Woody was a Razzie winner for Indecent Proposal in 1993. And for those watching on the YouTube feed, you can see I actually have a picture of Woody Harrelson that hangs on my wall right here over my shoulder. He's one of my people in my gallery.
To the listeners at home, it's the only one that's straight.
Yeah, I suck at hanging.
You use the level to hang Woody Harrelson. Yeah. Everyone else is not as important to you.
That's how special he is. So obviously he started as Woody on Cheers.
Yep.
Great sitcom character, Emmy nominations.
Solid.
And then one of his greatest roles is, of course, White Men Can't Jump.
Mm-hmm.
See, normally like my interest in life and my interest in movies don't intersect. Like I love to play poker. I think there's only one good poker movie. I don't really care for a lot of basketball movies. And I don't really care for White Men Can't Jump, but Woody Harrelson clearly not a good basketball player.
Yep.
And somehow it's like, this guy's a ringer. He's going to win all kinds of money scamming people with how good he clearly sucks. So I had to mention that. Also, my another favorite performance is Hitman in No Country for Old Men. And Woody's father actually was a hitman.
Yes, he was.
And I just found that's a weird fact. And then I think the most underrated performance probably in the history of television, should have won an Emmy, is not by Woody Harrelson, but by Woody Harrelson's wig in shit. I fucking forgot the name of the show.
Yeah, True Detective.
Yeah. True Detective.
I completely blanked on it right there. But yeah, in True Detective, I remember watching that.
I was like, that's not a show.
Bill Murray's wig in his comb over in Kingpin should have won an Oscar.
God, I love Wig Watch.
I remember watching the first season of True Detective, and I was captivated by the show, but I was more captivated every time they did the flashbacks to the younger version of Woody Harrelson. I was like, God, what a nice wig. They really have sold that he has hair. Like, I was just, this is fantastic. Like, who are the makeup and wardrobe people? They have just knocked this out of the park. And then my favorite Woody Harrelson project, absolute courage and just absolutely no fear to do his Lost in London project.
Oh yeah.
Which, Brian, did you go to that with me?
Yeah, I did. That was fun. I was actually talking about that the other day. That was really cool.
It was, for those who don't know, he did a movie completely live in London that went from all kinds of different locations. They had to change plans right at the last minute because a bridge got shut down. And it was the movie's fine. I mean, he plays himself and he runs into Owen Wilson, and it's based on a goofy night he had many years back. And he needs to get home. He's misbehaving. He needs to get home because his kids want to go meet Daniel Radcliffe on the set of Harry Potter the next day. That's the whole plot. But he just runs into all kinds of weird stuff. Willie Nelson appears in a hallucination. Yep. But it's wild. I mean, like we watched it. I can't remember what time of day we did it because they were doing it live in London, and we watched it in a theater here in Chicago. And I think there was only like one moment where something went wrong. He's on the phone, and somebody's supposed to be on the other end of the line, and nobody was there.
Took a long beat before someone got there.
And he had to kind of like keep things going. And then we watched, like, they did a live Q&A afterwards, and he was like, yeah, I was absolutely shitting my pants there. Like, I was like, this is the moment where the whole thing comes off the rails. But that was the only real hiccup they did. They actually pulled it off. I don't know how great it would be as a rewatch. It was more of, when we were sitting there, it was like, knowing that this could go wrong at any time made it so exciting to be part of the audience.
Yes.
It was a really unique cinematic experience that I don't know if anybody will try that again. So anyways, that's why I think Woody Harrelson is one of the coolest dudes ever.
Sounds like you guys might like improv. If you like to watch something that could go wrong at any moment.
This was heavily scripted.
Okay.
Heavily rehearsed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scripted, rehearsed. Yeah. That's why it was a success, because they had planned it meticulously.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is what Brian and I really love about the theatrical arts.
Okay, got it.
Planning. These are two solid choices all around for reminding me of our incredible time watching Lost in London. You're getting 3 points for Woody Harrelson. Wow. And Chest Rockwell himself also deserves 3 points. What a guy. Oh my God, we are at our number ones already. How did we get here so fast? Yeah. Mitchell.
Sure.
Your number one top Razzie winner.
My number one it's actually a dual choice, and I can't decide because
cheating.
Because
what'd you do?
One I actually hate, but you can't deny his success, and the other one I love, but I've talked about him too much, so I didn't want to talk about him again. So I had a dual choice here of Adam Sandler and Tom Cruise. They couldn't be more different from each other. And I think, you know what? I'll just go for it. I'm going to go Adam Sandler. I'm going to put it on here because there actually are some projects that he's been in that I've really, really enjoyed. He's won tons of Razzies. Jack and Jill, the only year where someone won both the Best Actor and Best Actress award for the Razzie, because he played himself and his sister Jill in a truly offensive film. I cannot believe people let him do that.
It is worth watching for the product placement Al Pacino has to do for Dunkin' Donuts.
Maybe I do need to watch that now.
It is just awful stain on his career.
And he has many other stains. Just like look at any of the movies he's made for Netflix in the past 5 years. My number.
Let's talk about Al Pacino's career. Yes. Adam Sandler has plenty of 0%ers, but Mr. Corleone himself has to sell Dunkin' Donuts to be attracted to a cross-dressing Adam Sandler. That's a rough paycheck.
Does he do Pacino. Like the classic Pacino, like "Hoo-ah, Dunkin'" or something like that, or you know?
No, he does an entire musical number that he sings.
No,
this is so humiliating. Wow.
Oh God, this is depressing me. Okay, I need to talk about some things I like. Okay, here we go. The Wedding Wedding Singer, an early film of his, very, very sappy but very, very sweet. His singing, his like limited musical talent actually works really well in that film.
I love the opening of him singing "You Spin Me Right Round, Baby, Right Round." Actually, I love that scene.
I like it better than the original song.
Yeah. He's just, you see why people could fall in love with him when he teaches an old woman how to play piano. He gets paid in meatballs. when he gets really
So
quiet and you can tell he's angry at her boyfriend, who's just a total douche. Who's like, I think he's talking about his stereo system or something. And then of course, Drew Barrymore is just, America's sweetheart at that point. And then also, but my favorite by far, Adam Sandler project is the P.T. Anderson film, Punch Drunk Love. He buys just a shit ton of yogurt to try and get this travel deal. And it's just this really lonely guy who just needs a win. He needs a win, and the world's been beating him down for a long time. And he finally kind of steps out and stands up for himself, which is fun to watch. And in a very peeling back like the gray layers of LA, which P.T. Anderson is great at showing the depressing side of LA, not the glitzy gold-covered star section, but the like the valley and all the smog and the sadness there. So those are my two there. Of course, Tom Cruise, TC, number one guy, hanging off the side of a plane, doing all his stunts, being a comedy legend. Yeah, we all know that about Tom Cruise. But Adam Sandler, he somehow still just stacks up the credits. And it's weird too, like when you hear Conan O'Brien being like, Adam Sandler's hilarious and I love him and he's the best. And then you see the movies he does, there's just this giant disconnect. But everything I've heard about Adam Sandler, though, is that he's just an incredible friend. He's a very, very nice guy, so no one hates him for that. I think that's why people let him do the bullshit that he poops out and then calls a movie. So that's it. That's my number one. I thank you very much. I'm done.
I have a brief Adam Sandler story. I was 13 and one of my friends at school, there was a girl who had a really big crush on him.
What?
And she was going to go see her parents were going to take a group of people to go see The Waterboy. And
Kathy
my friend
Bates saves it.
wasn't like,
yeah.
he had no interest in this girl whatsoever. He's like, yeah, but I really want to go see Waterboy. So he agreed to be her boyfriend as much as you can be somebody's boyfriend in 12 or 13. Went to see The Waterboy and then waited 2 or 3 days to be polite and then broke up. And I'm making air quotes, we'll say. So I'll never forget that.
Wow.
I never saw Waterboy, but I'll never forget that movie.
You've never seen Waterboy.
No.
That's -1, and you haven't even said your number one. But
my God.
I mean, Mitch over here is shitting on Adam Sandler, but doesn't he have what we all want? He comes up with an idea that he slept on. He gets someone to give him $100 million. He gets to take all of his friends with him to Hawaii as he casts the most beautiful leading lady that he gets to kiss. And then he gets to go home to his big house. What's wrong with that career?
I mean, Brian, you yourself know you only want a 3,000 square foot house. And I know Adam Sandler's house is much larger than that. So
see, he's got too much. So that's fine.
I mean, obviously.
Some say everything we make is really stupid and childish. So maybe we are on the Adam Sandler trajectory and we just haven't admitted it to ourselves yet.
Oh my God. Are we all? Does it take 3 of us to be one
We're
Adam
all
Sandler?
Adam.
Oh my God. No.
If you take whatever Adam Sandler's net worth and divide it by 3, I think we would all still have a very happy life.
Yeah. I mean, you can say that about any star. Any star that's got a big old house and a bunch of cars, and they're a star. Of course. Anyone in the performative arts would appreciate that station life. But this is about tearing him down. That's what this is about.
All right. In the words of Adam Sandler, give me your number one, Nathan.
For people who aren't watching, Nathan's face is so red. He's pissed right now. He hates that we're talking about Adam Sandler. Is that true? You look like you're over it. I don't know.
No, I just I'm gonna reveal my number one now, and I wasn't informed that the rules had changed, but since you had your time, I get to. So my number one is David Spade, Eddie Murphy, Tyler Perry, Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, Laurence Olivier, and Dennis Rodman. Since we can have multiple ones for extra points, apparently. No, actually, my number one is Marlon Brando.
Mm-hmm.
Had to be Marlon Brando for The Island of Dr. Moreau, which came out in 1996. There's one big reason that Marlon Brando will be my number one. But first, I have to say, I think Marlon Brando in his prime was literally the greatest actor of all time. So how could he not be number one on this list? And I think Streetcar Named Desire is the most important acting performance of the 20th century. That was when people realized you could actually channel real human emotions on screen, and it would, it wasn't a performance, and he wasn't over speaking, like he wasn't projecting to the back of a theater. He realized that, that
it didn't have a transatlantic accent to sell his words.
And then later, he was criticized heavily for when he played Mark Antony in Julius Caesar, that movie. But I think he was great because he didn't try to really change his voice and speak like John Gielgud or some, I can't do a really good British accent, so I won't try. But
I can. It's not that hard.
Yeah. But he didn't try to sound like he was, the King of England or something. He just tried to sound like himself, and he still delivered a beautiful performance. And then maybe the coolest, most iconic image of like the 50s, things changing into the rock and roll era, was him in The Wild One as the motorcycle gang leader. Great line. What are you rebelling against? What do you got? Amazing. He had the sideburns in that movie that then were copied by Elvis Presley and James Dean, two icons. They were trying to be Marlon Brando. Anyways, then he was also Vito Corleone in The Godfather. Maybe the best performance in any movie ever. But the greatest transformation in the history of movies or movie stars is Marlon Brando. Go to Google. Look up a picture of Marlon Brando from when he was in his 20s, and then go look up a picture of Marlon Brando from the 1990s. No one has ever gone from hottest to most disgusting in the history of possibly humanity. He
did go full Orson Welles.
He really let himself go. He was absolutely just like the perfect physical specimen in his prime, and then he was a disaster and a punchline for how badly he took care of himself. And Marlon Brando, number one.
Wow.
Solid choice. Mitch, you seem like you have some thoughts on Marlon Brando.
I think that because I'm going to push back on the greatest performance ever in Streetcar Named Desire. It was good for the time, but I think the quality of the other people around him made him seem that much better. So I don't know. Are we sure? Are we sure he's the best? Are we sure? Are we sure?
Yes. Yeah, we are.
Are we sure? Sorry. This is Nathan's favorite
Mitch, why do you
counterpoint to any point?
When Mitch decides to be a contrarian for the sake of being one.
I think that, Brando obviously, he made people think, a little more deeply about acting. I think that's very good. So, and it pushed the craft forward. I think that his weight, sadly, people who are younger know him as like a different figure than people who are older and like, or maybe don't have a full understanding of his career. So that is unfortunate that he, turned into like a real, blue ribbon butterball in his later years. But
he physically stopped caring for himself, but also he did completely quit trying as an actor. Like sometime right after The Godfather, he was just apparently impossible to work with, and his performances were all over the place. Apparently he had to he wouldn't memorize his lines. He had to read from cue cards. So not necessarily a role model, but in his prime, he was the best.
He's the best.
There's that famous, was it Apocalypse Now? He showed up 50 pounds overweight, and they couldn't. They just shoot in close-ups because they couldn't show his body.
Yeah.
It's so sad. You're like, wow, really? 50 pounds? It's like that's hard to miss the mark that much when you're a professional actor. I feel like so. Yeah.
That is true.
Oh, Brian.
That is true.
When you can afford a personal trainer and a personal chef and
sounds like Marlon Brando is much like Brian's favorite movie from the 2000s. He was a real transformer in the weight department. Damn it.
Nice try, but wrong. All right, I'm going to square out these number ones before I give you both one last guess each to see what my favorite hate watch is. But Mitch, I was only going to give you 1 point for cheating and doing a actor / another actor, But then you did give me a great title for my future album, Smog and the Sadness. So you will get 2 points for Adam Sandler. And Nathan, of course, you're getting 3 points for Brando.
Jesus.
Now, before I release Mitch, the points don't matter. Don't worry. Your life will be the same after this.
Don't tell me.
Before I release what the points are, Nathan, do you have a final guess on what my Razzie worst picture favorite is?
The Love Guru.
Damn it!
Plus
You
2
gotta
points
be kidding
to
me!
Nathan.
I was gonna guess that as well. Can I get one? I was gonna say Love Guru too. I was so sad.
Hey, I'd only made
that
one guess before
depresses
that.
me. Brian, the Love Guru.
Have you ever hate watched
I turned
it?
it off in 10 minutes.
It's really bad. And you got to get drunk, but it's really fun. All right. And it's got the best line where Justin Timberlake comes in and says, like, hey, I have a Quebec pizza. You put the ketchup on a Pop-Tart. See, it's horrible. This is why you got to get drunk and hate watch it. The points wouldn't have mattered. I split them up, 1 point for each of you. Nathan, you have 15 to Mitch's 11. You are today's victor. Congratulations. That was a silent mic drop for an audio format. Works.
That was just for you guys.
So, thank you. Appreciate it. And we cannot leave today without, unfortunately, listening to my Fast Five, which is the top 5 intellectual properties that need to license themselves to casino games. Number 5, the Sandlot slot machine. Not only would there be a Wendy peppercorn and sunglasses behind the jackpot amounts luring you in, but a Squints and Beast bonus would be a nostalgia blast I'd love to see. Plus, you get to gamble while listening to Green Onions by Booker T and the MGs. Boom. 4, Indiana Jones roulette. If anyone has seen those fancy new roulette tables in Vegas where they project light on the winning numbers, colors, and dozens, imagine every time you win having the knight from The Last Crusade say,
"You have chosen wise."
It would be such a better experience. And then when you lose, you get to hear,
"You chose poor."
It would be such a fun experience. All right.
It's legitimately
Number
an
3.
amazing idea.
Yes. On number 3, I'm going to rip this straight from Vegas Vacation, but it's War of the Worlds War. The childhood car game of war that every time you lose has the great sound that just echoes throughout the casino. Number 2, Toy Story slots. The real win is not the money. It's how long you can stand the sound bites of a diaphragm-strained Tom Hanks yelling at you in a rumbling chair with surround sound. The longer you last, the more tickets you win to the NSYNC cover band show at the Casino Amphitheater with opening act Michael McDonald. Number 1. Taxi Driver Blackjack. All right, there's nothing really different about this game. There's just a giant felt Travis Bickle on the table staring at you, inspiring you, making you slowly sink further down as your chip stack shrinks and shrinks until you crack. That's this week's edition of Uber Cinco. From the back lot of his upcoming self-financed documentary, Brinkerdoo, A Formerly Blessed Life, has been...
Brinkman.
And the Warren County meat beater who has now fertilized crops in Knox and Stark counties has been
Nathan Hennenfent.
And I have been, as always, your big wet boy, Brian Ernst. And as Biz Bear always says, razzing your boys is your heterosexual love language. Auf Wiedersehen and adios. You've just listened to Uber Cinco, a production of UBK Studios. Subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your fine podcasts from.
If you like what you hear and want to support the show, please visit our Patreon site at patreon.com/UBK Studios. Every little bit helps us keep the lights on and the bill collectors at bay.
Keep tabs on us on all the social media at UBK Studios, and most importantly, subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can see that we really are just a bunch of good Midwestern boys.